these people were involved in planning an operation of October 7, and they would never be safe anywhere in the world, including Qatar or other places as well.
Would you bomb Hamas leaders in Budapest?
It's not my decision.
Köszöntő nézőinket, szervusztok! Nagy örömünkre elfogadta a meghívásunkat Izrael állam nagykövete Maja Kados, hogy az ő álláspontját is megismertethessük az Izrael által viselt háborúkról, illetve a magyar-izraeli kapcsolatokról. Kérdezni fogom a gázai övezetben tapasztalt éheztetés, illetve a népirtás vágyáról, de ugyanígy az izrael, illetve a magyar kormány közötti kapcsolatokról is. Itt szeretném jelezni, hogy a palesztin nagykövet számára is megküldtük az interjú megkeresésünket, amire eddig még nem érkezett válasz, de amennyiben nyitottnak mutatkozik arra, hogy ugyanígy a kameráink elé álljon, akkor természetesen továbbra is biztosítjuk számára ezt a lehetőséget a későbbiekben. Most azonban Izrael állam nagykövete következik itt a csatornán. És akkor fordulok is a mai vendégünkhöz. Your Excellency Maja Kados, the Ambassador of State of Israel in Budapest. Welcome to the show and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward for our discussion.
So, since you arrived in Budapest, you have spoken very positively about the inclusion and the safetyness of the Jewish community in Hungary. Can you share some of your experiences or impressions around that?
Yeah, so unfortunately we live now in a time when Jewish communities all over the world are not so safe. We see a lot of anti-Semitic attacks against Jews all over the world. And I'm very glad that this is not the situation here in Hungary. I know the community here feels safe. They feel protected by the government. They appreciate very much the zero tolerance policy of the Orban government. And this is the impression that I got from my conversation with the community.
So, indeed, in May you remarked at an event that, and I'm quoting you, the fact that we can stand here proudly and without fear is a direct result of the Hungarian government's firm and clear policy, zero tolerance for anti-Semitism, as well as for anti-Israelism. What are some of the examples of the Orban government's successes against anti-Semitism?
So it's in the daily life. I think many people here in Hungary take for granted the fact that they see people with kippah cover their head in the street. This is something that today you can do in London, for example. I hosted here 2 weeks ago an event of singles from all over Europe. They came from Italy, from France, from Germany. And each one of them came to me for a second and told me about a case of a little brother or sister that were hit on the way to school, or some remarks they got in their workplaces of violence against their parents or against their rabbis, or the fact that they need to hide their Star of David. And this is things that we don't see here in Hungary.
These are strong criticisms. So do you think that people who are wearing kippahs, for example, on the streets of London, are exposed to any verbal or even physical violence?
Definitely, yes. We see the numbers. The numbers are on the rise all over Europe. And we see that governments are now coming together, trying to figure out what they should do, but not all of them acting in the same way.
Okay. As you may know, the former president of Iran, Mr. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who during his presidency frequently claimed that the Holocaust was a myth and called several times for the elimination of, and I'm quoting him, Zionist regime, and provided funding, training, and arms to not just Hamas, but to Hezbollah as well. So he is a regular speaker at the state-funded Ludovika University in Budapest. This is a public service university. So his last appearance was at a conference this May during your tenure as an ambassador. Did you hear of the news, and what were your thoughts on his visit to Budapest?
We don't interfere in the way that Hungary conduct its foreign policy, or if the university decide to invite this speaker or that speaker.
It's a state-funded university.
Yeah. So we raise these concerns with the government when we find in our discussion. We have a very open dialogue with the Hungarian government. Obviously, Hungary has relations with many countries that don't have relations with Israel. They have their own interests. And we talk about it. We raise our concerns when it comes to Iran. We raise our concerns when it comes to Hezbollah, the threats against Israel. And this is a dialogue that we have with the Hungarian government, and they are well aware of it. But we don't control the Hungarian government, and obviously they have their own foreign policy and can do whatever they find to be the right thing for them.
Yeah, but Madam Ambassador, you personally condemned the Sziget Festival's decision to invite NICAP, the Belfast-origined Red Trio, which is a private institution, a private company in Hungary.
So, first of all, on the issue of Sziget, the embassy, this was a Jewish community and Christian communities that came together, and Hungarians, citizens that came against the decision of the Sziget Festival. If you will notice, the embassy at any point didn't interfere with the Sziget decision. Once the decision was made by the Hungarian government, we congratulate it and thank the Hungarian government, but we were not the one criticizing Sziget. The criticism came from the Hungarian people that live here and felt that this is not the spirit of Hungary.
But you said, and I'm quoting you, cultural events should never provide a platform for incitement or the glorification of terrorism, but should unite people. So why not criticizing a state-funded university for inviting an openly anti-Semitic, an openly violent former leader against the state of Israel, and condemning a private company who is inviting a Red Trio, who maybe made some absolutely insensitive or even stupid remarks on the ongoing situation in Gaza, but never threatened the very existence of Israel?
First of all, I don't agree. I think that NICAP, when they speak about...
You think NICAP poses a greater threat to the existence of Israel than Mahmoud Ahmadinejad?
Definitely not, but I don't feel that they agree to the existence of Israel. I say when they support free Palestine from the river to the sea, which means basically no space for the Jewish people in Israel, then they don't agree to the existence of the state of Israel. So, but I'm putting that aside and answering your question. And definitely, we are not encouraging Ahmadinejad here in Hungary, and we convey these messages to whoever we need.
But the former ambassador condemned when he was visiting Hungary why there is a change in the policy towards the acceptance or the invitation of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in Budapest by the embassy of Israel.
I'm almost like I'm trying to think now clearly. I don't remember that happened after my tenure here, and I agree. I'm sure that's what you. Yeah. So I'm not aware. I'm not aware of that. This is something I will need to check. There's no change of policy.
Okay, so I didn't report that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
No, I knew that the last time he was here was in 2023, and I will have to check about May. I'm sorry, I'm not aware of this. Yeah, okay. I'm not aware of this visit, but definitely there's no change of policy.
I'm not trying to be, I don't know, too hard on this issue, but I don't know. So you are aware of the fact that NICAP is coming to the country, but you're not aware of the invitation by a state-funded university of one of the greatest enemy of Israel.
No, I know it sounds really bad, but I'm not aware of that. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
The priorities of the embassy need to be checked.
I will check.
Okay. Another question. So the Orban government has repeatedly awarded prestigious cultural awards to openly anti-Semitic public figures, Zsolt Bayer, Mihály Takaró, or even Kornél Döbrentei. And I want to make, or want to give you an example of Kornél Döbrentei's remarks. So he made the following statements about Jewish people. The Jewish community in Hungary does not exactly appear in the role of a gentle, patriotic segment of the population. Of course, he made this, so he said that almost 24 years ago, but never said or never issued an apology towards the Jewish people or towards anyone in Hungary. And despite this, he was awarded the Kossuth Prize, which is the highest cultural prize of the state of Hungary. So also, Zsolt Bayer, the government's favorite pundit, expressed regret over the fact that not all the leftist critics of the government were, and I'm quoting him, dug into the ground up to the neck and the renowned site of an anti-Semitic and anti-communist program in 1919, sorry. So after the fall of the Hungarian Soviet Republic. So I'm just really interested that, do you have any, views on these awards? And how do you see this in the light of zero policy towards anti-Semitism by the Hungarian government?
Look, in the end of the day, there's no government. It's a process. The issue of anti-Semitism, how governments approach the issue of anti-Semitism, what processes they do inside their governments, it's always a process. It's always something that's in dialogue. I think the Orban government means well, and they have zero tolerance policy because they want to protect the Jewish community.
Yeah, but as far as I remember, this wording practice of the government was heavily criticized by various Jewish communities in Hungary, and these remarks were rejected by the government. So don't you think that these wording practice contradicts or undermine the zero tolerance for anti-Semitism policy of the Hungarian government?
I think it's always a process. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it again. I think the government here wants to do better on these issues of anti-Semitism, that it always look at how to improve. They always, only recently they appointed the advisory board on the issue of anti-Semitism. It means that they know they have room to approve and they're doing it.
Yeah, but so it means that zero is not absolute zero.
I think zero at no place is never zero. It's like a romantic idea that we want to reach, and it say that this is where we want to be, and this is the actions we are taking, and our situation is much better than other European countries. And we also have place for growth and place to study and place for dialogue, and that's good.
Last fall, the newly elected municipal government of the 12th district in Buda decided to remove the infamous Turul monument, a relic of the extreme right on which the names of the World War II victims and perpetrators got mixed up. So since its erection 21 years ago, this monument has been in the center of debate on memory politics, with historians and Jewish organizations condemning it for its strong anti-Semitic overtones and for falsifying history. In October, Minister János Lázár, a member of the government, initiated to place the monument under protection to prevent it from being removed, which was seen by many as a concession to the extreme right. What is your opinion on the government's intervention to protect the debated anti-Semitic monument?
I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm here for 5 months. I'm not deeply enough knowledge about this issue, and I don't have anything to say about it. I don't feel I know enough about this topic.
But can you make a pledge to look into the details and maybe come back later and explain what is your opinion, or what is the opinion of the State of Israel on the move of the government?
Definitely.
In order to defend this monument. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, did you encounter the August 25 statement signed by over 300 intellectuals of Jewish origin, as they said, for the common humanity of Palestinians and Jews? So, do you have any comments on this petition?
Look, Hungary is a democracy, as Israel is a democracy, and people should be able to voice their concerns. I don't agree with what they say. I don't think that the government in Israel is extreme as they portrayed it. I felt very sorry that they didn't mention Hamász and their crimes, but it's their opinion, and petition is a democratic tool, and obviously they are allowed to write petitions.
The prominent Jewish Hungarian journalist László Seres referred to the signatories of the petition as self-hating Jews, and György Gábor, also a prominent philosopher and professor at the Budapest University of Jewish Studies, called them self-proclaimed humane Jews. In general, do you find it acceptable to characterize Jewish people who are critical towards the policies of Israel as self-proclaimed Jews?
Look, I feel that people should be able to voice their opinions.
Yep.
And that we, thank God, all of us, both in Israel and in Hungary, live in a democracy, and people can write letters. We don't have to agree with them. They used very strong language in their letter that I don't agree with, and their criticism using a very strong language that we don't necessarily agree with. As a diplomat, I would choose other words in both cases, but they definitely should be able to voice their concerns.
So it's not an anti-Semitic move against the existence of Israel, for example?
I feel that they undermine the current government, in Israel. I wish they wouldn't do that. I think it wasn't helpful for us at this point of time. I think that we've been in a very delicate situation in Israel, and that people should also raise their concern about what's going on with the Israeli people, with our hostages, with the victims of October 7th. I would wish to see more people, whether Jewish or not Jewish, have more empathy to what the Israelis are going through. But again, it is very possible for people to criticize Israel.
But does that mean that they are anti-Semitic or not?
Depends if they are agreed to the right of Israel to defend themselves.
But
I think this is the line.
But do you think they are questioned the very existence of Israel with their petition?
Not necessarily.
So you...
I think, again, as I said, their petition is something I don't agree with. I don't like the fact that they think our government is extreme to a point that they think that it's not democratic.
Okay.
I don't agree with anything that they wrote, but I think they voiced concern for Israel. I didn't see in that petition any call for the destructions of Israel or that they don't agree to the existence of Israel. Hence, they should be allowed to write their petition. Oh, they can write the petition. They don't need me to agree for their petition.
No, but it's important that the representative of the Israeli state how would characterize or how would label this petition. So you wouldn't characterize the people who initiated this petition as anti-Semitic? No. And are they self-hating Jews or not? So I'm just asking.
I'm not using this term. What is self-hating Jew? That's like... I don't feel connected to this term. I wouldn't use it on anyone. I think that there are people that have their concerns about Israel. You know what? As an Israeli ambassador, you know who are the people I'm worried most? Not about them. The 300 people that wrote the petition, I feel that they care. You know, I feel that they care. I'm more concerned from the people that don't care about Israel anymore at all. This is the people I'm concerned about.
Okay, thank you very much for making that comment. Okay, so coming back to the topic of condemning all forms of anti-Semitism, this June you appeared on a podcast in Magyar Nemzet, and you stated, and I'm quoting you, they are not attacking the single Jew because that's not politically correct, but they are attacking the Jewish entity, the Jewish state. You mentioned about the people who are criticizing Israel policies towards Gaza and the ongoing war. So, and you said we see it in more and more countries in Europe. So I'm really interested. Did you mean that all form of criticism against Israel, the policies in Gaza, are by definition anti-Semitic?
I look at this again. If people say, I understand the Israeli pain, first of all, I recognize the right of Israel to exist as the state of the Jewish people. Yes. That's like first thing that defines them if they are anti-Semitism or not. And then I recognize the right of Israel to protect itself for self-defense, like any other country. If they are on that point, if we agree on these 2 points, then their criticism on the actions of Israel and this way or that way that we are choosing to conduct the war is criticism. If they say, take this from here, and many are taking it from there to the fact, again, we repeat the issue from the river to the sea, so it means that no Jewish entity should be entitled. Or people say Israel has no right to defend itself. Or Israel should allow, and part of this thing is like, oh, you should allow the Hamas live next door and threat your communities and don't defend yourself because they are hiding behind, for example, children. Then, yes, it's anti-Semitism. Okay.
Specifically, when it comes to the war activities Israel has been conducting since the horrific terrorist attack by Hamas on the 7th of October 2023, do you believe that criticizing the conduct of the war is necessarily a denial of Israel's right to exist?
To defend itself.
What's the difference?
Because the Hamas is a terror organization. They work as a terror organization. For example, when we build underground shelters, that's for the civilians. So you will have the civilians underground in the shelters, and you have the soldiers on top defending the civilians that are in hiding. Hamas does exactly the opposite. They are going underground in the tunnels, and they put the children and the schools and the women and the hospitals as their bases.
We are going to talk about those details later, yes.
And then people say, oh, you cannot shoot at this area or that area, means that you cannot protect yourself. But the only way to protect ourselves, and this is the way they conduct the war, is to be able to walk in these areas. So when people come and say, well, in their imagination, there's this clean wall between armies. When they think about a war, maybe they think about European terms of war, that, okay, this is an army, they are fighting, and we can keep all the international laws. And once they're saying, oh, no, you should limit yourself because X, Y, Z means you cannot protect yourself, then yes, they don't recognize the right of Israel to exist, or they ask us to take upon ourselves risks that they would never put themselves into.
Let me put it in another way. So there was this horrific, unacceptable terrorist attack by Hamas, period. But conducting the war and criticizing the details of the war is necessarily a denial of Israel's right to defend itself?
If what we've been told is you should stop the war, period, and this is what many of our criticisms say. They don't say, oh, why would you go from the sea and not from this and this border? Or why would you choose this area and not that area? But they say, oh, you should stop the war, means that you should keep Hamas in power and your hostages in Hamas' hands. So then, yes, they deny our right to existence.
That's why I said that details of the war, for example, attacking hospitals or criticism towards to the redistribution of food in the area, does that constitute the denial of Israel's right to defend itself?
No, we have a very good dialogue, and I've been part of this dialogue in my previous role in the ministry. We have a dialogue, for example, with the EU about how to conduct the humanitarian aid effort. And the EU comes with very good ideas that we sometimes agree to, sometimes we don't agree to, or sometimes they ask. And there's always a dialogue between us and the Americans and the EU and the UN agencies about how we should conduct, for example, the issue of the food. And we explain our position, okay, from this and this routes you can go or cannot go and why. And sometimes they say, but this will make everything different and we will try to change the route of the world. Or if they say, okay, this route has been given to Hamas and now everyone steal our aid, so we will try to help them find a different route. And this is a dialogue. It's not even criticism, but this is a dialogue that sometimes we can help and do and work together and sometimes not. But this is obviously a way that we can work together and get into agreements. But if someone say, you should stop the war, period, then obviously they deny our right to protect ourselves.
Okay. You have welcomed PM Orban's withdrawal from the International Court of Justice after it ruled that PM Netanyahu was responsible for, and I'm quoting them, starvation as an act of warfare, among other war crimes. And a resolution passed by the International Association of Genocide Scholars states that the Israel's conduct meets the legal definition as laid out in the UN Convention on Genocide. And two Israeli groups, B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights Israel, released separate reports claiming the same. So I'm sure you disagree with the characterization, but what do you think is the reason that so many organizations come to this conclusion?
So on October 7th, you say, rightly so, that Israel was attacked, a horrific attack by one terror attack. I think what people don't really understand is that we were attacked from 7 fronts. And I will add the 8th front, which is the public opinion front. And this became a legal public opinion battle that the Palestinians are handling against Israel with some players in the international community, with support of few of the players in the international community. And a court that you can know in advance what will be the verdict of the judge by the country it comes for, and it can be pro-Israeli or anti-Israeli, we will know in advance, right? If it's X country, obviously he's going to vote for Israel, and if in that country, they're going to vote against Israel. So then that's not a court, that we are going again to the UN system when Israel is a minority. So same go for the academic world today, and some of the Israeli players are part of this, being sponsored and are part of this system as well. Because I think if you look at the Israeli abilities in the last 2 years, when it comes to the attacks that Israel conduct all over the region and our abilities, the army abilities that Israel has, I think you will agree that if Israel would like to conduct a genocide, that would happen like in a week after the war. Gaza is a very small territory, and if we wanted to kill all Gazan, which we don't because the Gaza people are not our enemy, Hamas is our enemy, so then we could have done it in 10 days. And
so you are strongly denying that there is any kind of ethnical cleansing effort going on behalf of Israel?
Yes.
So there's no intention of
no, in no way.
The
people of Gaza are not our enemy. We wish that one day we will be able to have a secure border with them, that some day in the future they can live in peace, that they won't live under a terror organization, that maybe my children, their children can build a new future in the Middle East. We don't want to kill the people of Gaza. We do want to take out Hamas leaders, definitely.
Yes, but then the following question is even more pressing. So by conservative estimations of the local health authorities, and you can say that they are biased, but still 60,000 to 80,000 people have died in the Gaza Strip since October 7th. And The Lancet, one of the world's leading healthcare medical journal, places the figure much higher, close to 200,000. And Guardian claims it has obtained IDF database indicating that 83% of all the victims were civilians. By comparison, the Battle of Aleppo between 2012 and 2016, where the Assad regime fought the Syrian rebels, many of them radical Islamists. So the civilian casualty rate was only 59%. Both the Assad regime and these Islamist groups involved were known for their disregard for civilian lives, and their weapons were far less precise than the weapons of IDF. So how then can the IDF claim to be a human army if it kills civilians at higher rates than these brutal regimes?
So, first of all, as you said before, we think that most of this data is biased. From time to time, we also see reports and apologies from The Guardian and other newspapers that they use inaccurate numbers.
Sorry, I haven't seen any kind of apology on behalf of Guardian because of the IDF report.
No, so many outlets already apologized for publishing fake news. There were reports that were, and we will be able to send some about misusing the data. But even if I go to the numbers you've said, and I want to say two things. First of all, we are grieving every life that lost. We hope and wish that this war wasn't forced upon us. We wish that 7 October would never happen. We don't want to hurt any uninvolved civilians, definitely not children, not women. And the blame and what you're doing now is exactly, I think, what the international media is doing.
Okay.
Instead of coming and thinking, who is the blame? On who is the blame for all this situation? On Israel or in Hamas? Who is the blame that putting all these civilians in the center of their defense system? This is their defense system, the children and the hospitals and the schools. And the international media, unfortunately, instead of coming and have someone sit here that supports Hamas, obviously you cannot interview the Hamas people, but someone that supports Hamas and tell him, okay, why won't Hamas end this war tomorrow? Why today release the 20 life hostages and the 28 bodies and give up their weapons and save all these kids, all these children, all these kids, if the Hamas, who is controlling the Gaza Strip now, and the Palestinian Authority will say they support it, why won't they come with the solution? Why won't they come and finish this war? So you are blaming Israel to defend itself and defend its civilians, and this is the upside world we are living in now.
I'm not blaming Israel, I'm just asking the question about this figure because I'm really interested that if these numbers reported by Guardian are false. So what are the real numbers? So if this 83% 80% of the victims are civilians is not right, then what is the real number?
I will need to get back to you with the real data. This is something I need to work with the IDF and get the numbers, and we will be glad to supply.
But do you have any knowledge that this report, which was absolutely worldwide reported, not just by Guardian, but all the other major, established, well-respected outlets, absolutely unbiased outlets. So is it false or not false?
So I'm not aware of 83% of the population not involved. I know of lesser numbers, but I want to be accurate about it and check it again.
Okay, but now that Hamas lost its leaders just because of the yesterday's attack, and we will continue to talk about that in detail. So, and from my point of view, they have clearly has absolutely no way to win this conflict. So what are in fact Israel's military objects in Gaza right now?
To take out the military from there. First of all, and most important, is to bring back our hostages. We tried the negotiations once and again for almost 2 years now. It doesn't work. We say yes again and again to the Witkoff offer 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't remember what number already. So many times we've been in the table of negotiation, tried to bring the hostages back, but it didn't work. So the first thing that the military got as their operation from the government is to bring back the hostages.
That's one of the top priorities.
Yes.
And what is your response to the fact that most of the demonstrations against the war is organized by family members of the victims, of the hostages?
So I think there is an internal debate in Israel on how we should do it. Some think that the way is to put more pressure on the Hamas, military pressure, and also try operations to bring back the hostages. And obviously the members of the family are very worried about them being there, and they think the way is negotiation. Unfortunately, even when the government came once and again to the negotiation table, it didn't help. So we definitely know that the negotiation at this point, which is the final point, which means that after that there will be no hostages in Hamas end, is the most difficult one.
Yes, but Madam Ambassador, these family members are saying that the continuation of the war is the biggest threat on the lives of the hostages. What is your response to that?
Okay, so that brings us to the second second goal of the war, which is to defend all Israeli citizens, and not only the hostages, and to make sure that Hamas won't be in power. So I think both of these goals and aims are sometimes look to some of the people, or on the field can be, on the ground can be contradicting each other. I know that the IDF works extremely slowly. That's what it also takes so much time to make sure that the life of the hostages are not in danger. And this is why we waited so long with with Gaza City, for example. But at this point, I think the government saw that there's no other way than completing the evacuation of Hamas from Gaza Strip.
Previously, Madam Ambassador, you strongly openly said that Israel's purpose is not to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip or to remove the Arab population from the area. That's right. Mm-hmm. But Minister of Finance, Bezalel Smotrich, said in May, within a few months, Gaza will be totally destroyed. The Gazan citizens will be concentrated in the south. They will be totally despairing, understanding that there is no hope and nothing to look for in Gaza, and they will be looking for relocation. How should we understand this statement other than an open description of ethnical cleansing?
So I think also President Trump, as you know, spoke about this situation. What we see now is that the destruction in the Gaza Strip don't allow normal life, for example, education, water, food, to the Gazan people. And in this time of when, first of all, our hostages will be back, then Hamas won't be in power anymore, then we will need to have the reconstruction of Gaza. So this is the period where some of the citizens won't be able to go back to their homes. And I think this is what he's talking about. It's not about permanent control over Gaza. Israel has no intention to control Gaza or reestablish our presence there.
Then what's the aim? So you would like to, I don't know, help the Palestinian people to create their own state, or, I don't know, create their own democracy and have, I don't know, a fair and square election process. So what is the diplomatic and political goals of Israel in the Gaza Strip right now?
So I think it will be a process. Obviously, we would all like to live next to a democracy next to us. I don't think...
But you would like to see a sovereign state of Palestine next to Israel?
This is something that is not feasible at this stage. We have our neighbors now are terrorists that hate us. And the level of distrust between Israelis and Palestinians are not in a place that we can speak about a Palestinian statehood in the near future or foreseen future. Because we see, on the one hand, we have Hamas in Gaza that are not going away this quickly or not going away now. We don't know who will come to change them, but the entity that will be in Gaza the day after should be much more positive towards Israel and accept our right to exist there. And then we look at the Palestinian Authority, and we see that they didn't condemn Hamas yet. We see that they still teach hatred in their books. We see that they still pay salaries for the families of terrorists. So what kind of country is it? What kind of state is it?
Yes, but that's why I was asking that Mr. Smotrich openly said that Gaza will be totally destroyed. Is it an official, I don't know, standpoint of the Israeli government right now?
Look, the rhetorics now, and I think this is part of also the war that's happening, the idea that you want to threat Hamas to let. You also want the people to understand what the cost of having Hamas in control, what will happen. And as long as Hamas is there, Israel keep fighting Gaza. And in the end of the day, what it means that many of the infrastructure and of what we see in Gaza now will be destroyed. That's the facts on the ground, and we see it daily now with the Gaza operation. We see building falling every day, and that's because Hamas is hiding there. This is an infrastructure for Hamas. And as long as the population agree to have Hamas in power and don't resist Hamas, so this is the cost of the war. And I think that's what Mr. Smotrich tried to explain, that there is a price for supporting Hamas.
Yes, but Madam Ambassador, if Mr. Smotrich said that they will be looking for relocation and he referred to the Palestinian people, so it seems to me that the only feasible outcome of this conflict, this war, is that the Arab population will disappear from the Gaza Strip, and then Israel will decide what will be the future of that soil.
No, the future of this soil, I think no one thinks that they disappear from there. I think that the negotiation...
Then why did Mr. Smotrich use those words?
Look, you're in a war. There's a rhetoric that you use in the war. You explain your enemy, what's going to happen to them if they will keep support the enemy. This is not an official cabinet decision, and this is not the official stand of the State of Israel. Even in Israel, we have politics. So there's some rhetorics being used also. You know, sometimes it also gives the Israeli sense of, okay, if they are going to keep threatening us, we will threaten them. But this is not a cabinet decision, and this is not an official Israeli stand. That was taken in the cabinet.
Okay. Another question which is raised by many is the proportionality of IDF's actions. And I'm raising this question because one of the recent tragic episodes of the war was the attack on the Nasser hospital, which PM Netanyahu has apologized for, calling it a tragic mishap. And that he deeply regrets, and the Israeli military has claimed that they were targeting what they thought was a Hamas surveillance camera. But if this is true, the IDF launched 2 separate attacks against the hospital, the second strike killing rescue workers and journalists arriving on the scene because of one suspected surveillance camera. And so my question is that what does that say about the proportionality of the IDF attacks?
I think that exactly the case that you describe now is exactly where I think our strength as a democratic country. When we do mistakes, we know to look into them, to try to understand what happened. We apologize for them. We try to learn from this for future cases. this is not something we are proud of. It's not something that we don't care about. It's not something that we take for granted that should happen in war. It's something that we take very seriously and try to avoid.
Yes, but you weren't aware of the actual rate of the civilian victims. And now we can see that there is a huge disproportionality of the precision of the IDF attack. So why should the public trust more the IDF statements? And why should the public trust that Israel is conducting a fair and necessary defense attack against Hamas locations and Hamas headquarters in the Gaza Strip? So why should we believe in what the IDF is saying?
So in Nasser case, for example, when we start looking into the numbers and who were the people there, we saw that there were many more terrorists than what we believed in the first place, because in the beginning we saw the international media and other victims, but then we saw that it was a hiding place and there was a reason to attack. Sometimes it takes time. I know that when an event like that happens, there's we are looking to make a balance between our need to bring the truth and the IDF, it takes few days sometimes to investigate it into an event like that, and then, the media cycle already changed. But we want to be accurate, but the media is reporting what it sees on the ground. That's obviously natural, and that's what media is doing. But once you start looking into the details, you understand what was the risk there in the first place. We saw that our soldiers were killed there because of the surveillance camera. It's not like, oh, wow, there's a camera, let's shoot in it. It risked the life of soldiers, and we paid with life of soldiers because of this camera, and it risked our people. And then we saw that some of the people that were staying in the hospital were terrorists, recognized terrorists, but it took few days to come out with all these facts. And I think that people should see events like that and the seriousness that Israel takes this kind of events and how we investigate it and how it takes time, because it takes time to get into all the details, as a show of our will to minimize the civilians' casualties.
Okay. So we have already briefly touched this issue, but yesterday Israeli forces conducted an attack on Hamas leaders in Doha, Qatar, and Qatar condemned this operation as a violence against the national sovereignty, and even President Donald Trump used, let's say, critical tone when addressing the incident. Even if we accept the premise that you were trying to eliminate terrorist leaders, the question still remains, doesn't Israel's action risk escalating the conflict into a full-scale war in the Middle East?
I think the history showed that the only way to bring peace to the Middle East is by diplomacy of force and strength. Israel, the main thing that Israel needs to do now is keep its deterrence. And these people were involved in planning an operation of October 7, and they would never be safe anywhere in the world, including Qatar or other places as well. And this was the message that was sent yesterday, and this will bring stability to the Middle East, because this will show people that you cannot take Israel out of the Middle East and you cannot fight it, and Israel has the abilities to defend itself, and this is the only possible way for Israel to live in our neighborhood.
Yes, but did you warn in advance Qatar about the operation?
No.
Did you warn the US in advance about the operation?
There's a constant dialogue between Israel and the United States.
And you are strongly rejecting the notion that it is a violation of the national sovereignty of Qatar?
No. We understand that this operation took place on the ground of Qatar, and that was very necessary. And as I say, our enemies won't be safe anywhere. And I think you remember, look at the days after the Holocaust and how long it took Israel and the Mossad operations against a lot of the Nazis that were involved in the Holocaust, even into the 50s and the 60s. And the people that conducted the October 7 terror attack won't be safe.
Would you bomb Hamas leaders in Budapest?
It's not my decision.
But if that would be the situation, by a logic you just explained to me, it seems evident to me that if Hamas leaders would regroup in Budapest, then they would threaten the country with a possible attack coming from the Israeli military.
I don't think Hungary will be a place where the Hamas leaders...
We already welcomed Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, so maybe that's not as far as a fantasy story.
And as I said, I think this leadership is not safe anywhere they are, and I don't get into these details of where and when and how we are going to eliminate these people that were...
And you don't think that Israel's actions are risking the escalation, a conflict into full-scale war in the Middle East?
Exactly the other way around. I think that when our neighbors see that, no matter what they say, they admire Israel, they understand Israel is strong, and they are looking to come to peace with Israel because they understand that Israel is not a player that you can demolish in other ways.
Okay. I would like to give you a chance to respond on the claims that Israel is starving the population in Gaza. What is the official response on this claim of the State of Israel?
So there's, as I told you, I was personally involved in many of the operations to get aid into Gaza. And there's few things going on in the same time. There's one is the humanitarian aid is being used politically by the UN agencies. So the UN agencies, while we allow them to put aid into Gaza, we unfortunately see hundreds of trucks in the border that they are not taking in from political reason because they want to end the war and they think this will be the issue of starvation of the population will put more pressure on Israel. So first of all, very unfortunately, we see that the UN is not didn't do his work. I think now it's much better after we exposed it and after it was in the media and after people saw all these hundreds of trucks in the crossway. The UN is now taking more and more steps to distribute, but in the beginning, this was the situation. They just didn't want to cooperate. Not only that, is that when UN agencies, some of them were willing to work with Israel, they got threatened by the UN Central from the New York that if they will cooperate with Israel on these issues, they will be steps against them. So the UN is one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is when we have aid entering to Gaza, it's being looted by the Hamas. So while we see, and we had photos that we took from the tunnels during the war, we found on the body cameras and other cameras of feasts in the, I have no, like chicken and rice and bananas and mango and avocado in the tunnels for the terrorists while people didn't have food up in the shelters. And there is the American-Israeli operation of GHF that distribute millions of meals every day.
Just let me allow to ask a question. So why is the change? So there were previously 400 food distribution points in Gaza operated by UN. And yes, there was a change that right now is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is distributing the food, and it only operates in 4 food distribution points, which is absolutely dysfunctional, reported by many workers who were contracted by the GHF. So why is the change? So why, operating with fewer food distribution points?
It's a different system because it doesn't allow, we didn't want Hamas to take over the aid. So the idea is that you have much larger centers that are close to the population that they can walk over and they can take a box. They don't need an ID. They don't have any barrier to go in. And they take a box that will fit a family. So then it means that Hamas can't steal the goods from the people. And when we did it with the trucks and the UN, the system didn't work that well because Hamas would steal the truck and then people won't have food. On the one hand, people won't have food, and on the other hand, we are giving money to our enemies. More than 30% of the budget of Hamas at the time of the war came from selling the humanitarian aid. So we found ourselves budgeting our own enemies in this system, and we try another system that the food will get directly to the people.
Yeah, so whether Israel is, conducting an ethnic cleansing or even genocide in Gaza is under discussion. It's a heavily debated issue. But when it comes to famine, major political figures, major organizations, NGOs, important public intellectuals are condemning Israel. So what do you think? So do they, I don't know, misunderstand the situation? Do they have bad intentions towards Israel? So why do they characterize it as a famine orchestrated intentionally by Israel if you are strongly denying that such a thing is going on in Gaza?
No, first of all, you can see the amount of food that enters Gaza. And again, putting the blame on Israel on issues that are in the hands of Hamas, for example, looting the humanitarian aid, is become this hobby of some. Like, I didn't see these people now speaking about Nigeria, for example, or places when there is a famine and genocide, and we see them criticizing Israel over and over again. We saw the photos of...
But without the base. So, for example, by the end of September, more than 340,000 people will face catastrophic levels of food insecurity marked by the widespread starvation, destitution, and preventable deaths, according to new analysis released by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification.
And I see this number since the beginning of the war. This will be This will be okay. So what?
Yeah, but this report was issued in this August.
Yeah, I know, but these reports are being issued every month since the beginning of the war, no matter what is the policy of Israel toward the Palestinians. This is the fake news or the anti-Israel orchestrated propaganda against Israel. This, we see it once and again. I know this every month. We are seeing reports that use the same language. There will be . So if will be something, it means that now it doesn't exist, and people calculate, I don't know based on what, that there will be enough food or not enough food, while we are entering, like the reality on the ground is there's food, and we see photos from Gaza on camera of people, and they don't look like they are starved. And the only people that we see starved on cameras is our hostages. If you saw the photos of our hostages in the last 2 months, the only people that you saw skins that look like people from the Holocaust were our hostages and not the Palestinians.
Probably this whole debate, whether there is an ongoing famine or genocide in Gaza, could be easily solved if reporters or observers would be allowed to enter into the Gaza Strip. Why Israel is still rejecting that these professionals do their work on the ground, on the soil of Gaza?
I think Prime Minister also said the same thing, that he agrees that this is something that we should aim for. This is a process. I know there's issues with the safety of the journalists and how they can enter Gaza, but that's something that our Prime Minister said publicly, that this is the goal and this is something that we wish to achieve in the near future.
But when? So this war is already going on almost 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand your point, and this is something that we are trying to figure out. There's issues of safety of journalists, and you spoke before about the Nasser hospital.
I take the risk. So if I would like to go into the Gaza Strip...
No, so that's it. The risk is not on you, because we cannot risk now at this point that something will happen to an international journalist. And this is something that the army is trying to...
But war reporters are conscious with the threats they are accepting when they do their professions. So why don't you allow to do their work and report from the ground?
So I'm saying this is an issue of safety. It's something that we're aiming to do. You are totally right. I'm not arguing with you. I'm having a dialogue. I think you are right. This is something we are aiming for, and hopefully that will be soon.
Okay. Each year on the 7th of October, commemoration is held in Budapest for the victims of Hamász 2023 attack, which is a very important and commendable. With the 3rd anniversary approaching soon, would you support any kind of commemoration this year that honors all civilian victims, both Israeli and Palestinians?
No. This is our memorial service for our victims, and we will honor our victims. And I think this is the way it should be. And I know that the Palestinian embassy just did a memorial service last Friday, and I don't see that they had any memorial for the Israeli victims. And this is something we are not going to do, or don't agree to do.
But do you think it's fair that the Hungarian government banned any kind of solidarity movement or demonstration next to the Palestinian people in Gaza?
I saw last weekend that there were hundreds of people in the Palestinian embassy. I don't think it's something that was forbidden by the local government, or that we asked to forbid I think it took place, and they had a memorial service and many people attended.
And don't you think that any, I don't know, gesture of solidarity will be necessary at this time?
Not from our side, no. I don't feel as the Israeli ambassador that this is something I need to organize or stand by. If people here and the Palestinian embassy here feels that this is something they should do, they've done it last weekend. Okay. They do it.
And okay, so thank you very much for your time. And I know we are running out of time, so I'm trying to end our interview right now. But I have a final question for you because I think it's important. So we were talking about famine. We were talking about whether a genocide is going on or not. You said your numbers. I said those numbers which were reported by unbiased organizations. But of course, it's still a battle of numbers. But if I'm looking into your arguments, you said that you are not aware of the fact that whether these IDF numbers are correct or not, that the rate of the civilian deaths is above 80%. What percent would be characterized as genocide in your eyes? So if it would turn out that this 83% of the murders are civilians would be true, it would turn out that yes, that's true, would you say that yes, that fits into the category of a genocide?
No, definitely not, because in the end of the day, because genocide...
It's the same number as Srebrenica.
No, but genocide is something that you want to eliminate the existence of the other side. And as I say from the beginning, Israel long-term goals is to live in peace, to keep its sovereignty, to keep its security. We don't have any intention to cleanse the Gaza Strip or to kill the Gazan civilians or...
But the result looks very similar to that.
No, that means, and whoever, and I'm saying, even if your numbers are true, the people to blame on that and the people that make this possible and the people that, because of them that happens, it's Hamász. It's the terror organization that controls this area. It's the people that instead of protecting their civilians, they have all these huge tunnels underground Gaza, right? Why won't they send all the children and women and innocent people there? No, it's the other way around. They take off their uniform and they go into the tents of the refugees. And they go to the Muwasi, which is the humanitarian area, and they hide in there. So they are risking intentionally the people that live there. And they are the one to blame on every civilian life that was lost in Gaza is because of Hamász. And Israel is doing whatever it needs to protect itself. And for many, Israel withdrew totally from Gaza. We had no conflict about the area with Gaza. Not only that, we opened places that have been bombed by the Hamász on October 7. It's places that Israel opened as a place of hope, the trade centers, the crossing of the border, and many other facilities that were there to build the future. When we withdraw from Gaza, we want to build a future with the Gazan people. I remember myself really as a young officer. I was then in the army. I was a very young officer. And I remember my first trip to Gaza when the Palestinian Authority controlled there. And I remember the way we built the crossing points. And I remember the hope in the eyes of the Gazan people when we built the factories that took away jobs from Israelis and transferred these jobs to Gaza so they will have a better...
But do you think the Gazan people still looking or taking a look at the Israeli forces and have the same hopes when they are taking that look on those soldiers?
We don't have the same hope. I think the situation now in the Middle East...
Yes, but you are way more advanced. You have all the necessary resources. Mm. You are a rich country compared to the...
Exactly.
compared to Palestine.
And we had the opportunity many, many times to live in peace with the Palestinians, both in Gaza and Judea and Samaria. We offered them so many times this good hand. And I think, yes, if I look at my children now, I want them to have this hope that they will be able to live in peace in the Middle East. If it's something that is feasible now, unfortunately not. My kids have been through the worst time. They've been through war. They've been through attacks of missiles. They've been through losing their friends, their best friends in this party. My son is 23. Best friends of his were killed in Nova. Friends of his were killed in Gaza. So how can he imagine a better future now? It's something we will need to build.
Horrific things occurred with the Israeli people. That's no question about it.
I know.
And that's my very last question because I think it's important. This will be a personal one. So during my teenage years, Israel was considered by many of my friends as a cool place, a place of joy, I don't know, great events, happiness. And yes, right now I can say with confidence that hopefully Jewish people are safe on the streets of Budapest. I can see right now that there is a global generation, people in the 20s, not just in Budapest, but anywhere in Europe or in the US, who don't consider Israel as an actor of peace, which is raising into this experience that Israel is conducting a war in Gaza, which is horrible, horrific, and no one sees any kind of feasible outcome of peace in the near future. That's not my saying against Israel. And I'm strongly worried that 10 or 20 years from now, Israel will not have as many allies as it has right now when this generation grows older. What do you think about this?
So first of all, I think that's a good question for last question, because it gives me the opportunity to thank you for giving me this stage, because I know that a lot of your audience is young audience, and sometimes they hear very one-sided information. And I know that this is a liberal channel, and it wasn't easy for you to have me here for a conversation. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell my share of the story. And I hope that people will try to listen to voices coming from Israel. I think that people, like, we now have the project of the Nova survivors, and they are going to parties in the Burning Man, in Szeged, in Azura, and they're telling the story to young people like them. I have here a delegation of, right now as we speak, for Majd al-Shams. It's Jewish kids that were attacked by rocket attack from Hezbollah, and they play here with youth in different football clubs here in Hungary, and they speak. We try to have this dialogue with young people. I think for Jewish people, it is still the safe place, like, because we see the number of immigration from European countries and from the US to Israel, and it's growing even though we are under war now. But I agree with you that we have a challenge with the young generation, and this is a challenge that we need to work on. And interviews like that give us the opportunity to share our story, and thank you very much for this.
But don't you think that Israel is threatening its very existence with its current policies towards Gaza? So that's the saying of these young generations that...
Yeah, but in the end of the day, we are now on a war on our existence. And this is the war we need to fight now. We need to protect our young people as well.
Madam Ambassador, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Also, I'm thanking for your... I'm thanking you for the chance raising these questions. And I hope that you will come back soon and we can continue this discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, really. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Ez volt az interjúnk Maja Kados Izrael állam nagykövetével. Hogyha még nem követted volna be a csatornát, mindenképpen tedd meg, ha van bármilyen kérdésed vagy észrevételed az elhangzottakkal kapcsolatban, akkor várunk a komment szekcióban. Egyéb iránt, hogyha fontosnak tartod, hogy ilyen tartalmakat tudjunk előállítani, akkor kérlek, hogy szállj be a finanszírozásunkba a leírásban található lehetőségeken keresztül. Munkatársai nevében köszönöm szépen a megtisztelő figyelmed, én Gulyás Márton voltam Budapestről, hamarosan találkozunk, addig és ciao.